Your father once told me the Greatjon was as fearless as any man he'd ever known. Greywind ate 2 of his fingers and he laughed about it. Catelyn Stark and Robb Stark on the Greatjon Umber. The Game of Thrones chapter 55, Catelyn 8. House Umber of Last Hearth is one of the most prominent and powerful northern houses, who have historically been sworn to House Stark of Winterfell. Their seat, the Last Hearth, stands close to the lands of the Gift, controlled by the Night's Watch, placing the Umbers among the first line of defence against threats from beyond the Wall. Their current lord is Greatjon Umber, known as the Greatjon. He's a fiercely loyal bannerman to House Stark, even for an Umber. The Umber's sigil depicts a roaring brown-haired giant clad in skin, in broken silver chains, flying amidst a flame-red field. According to some sources, the house words are "death before chains." The Umbers command a broad swath of land along the Bay of Seals, stretching south from the New Gift and westward to the King's Road. Their domain encompasses the upper reaches of the Last River and the rugged, lonely hills, with the King's Road itself marking their western boundary for nearly 100 leagues. Though most Umber territory lies east of the road, their flocks are driven into the high mountain meadows during the summer months for grazing. The region is rich in dense forests of towering pines and ancient oaks, resources the Umbers have long relied upon for their timber, hunting, and the rugged life demanded by the far north. Their seat of Last Hearth is the most northern castle in Westeros until you reach Castle Black and the Wall, hence the name, Last Hearth. Last Hearth was the royal seat of the Umbers, when they were once petty kings during the Age of Heroes, before bending the knee to the Kings of Winter of House Stark. It is believed that much of Last Hearth is made from the abundant pine and oak found in the forests that make up much of House Umber's lands. But by all accounts, Last Hearth has defendable stone structures that have been added over the millennia, making it just as challenging to assault as any other castle in the realm. The men of House Umber, for the most part, tend to be huge, loud and boisterous, as well as fearless in battle with a rage that seemingly gives them otherworldly strength. Some legends of the north claim that the Umbers had a drop of giant's blood running through their veins. They are also often known to have thick beards and long hair, adding to their ferocious and menacing look. While the Umbers are rightly seen as one of the most loyal and respected bannermen to House Stark, there are some more unsavoury aspects to the house that most common observers of history will not necessarily notice. House Umber were historically one of the houses of the north who practiced the right to the first night and actively sought to. The custom states that when a small folk marries, their lord or king has the privilege to bed the bride on the first night. Some lords even take this further, invoking it while staying with one of their bannermen, be that with the man's wife or daughter. However, most lords tended to avoid this aspect of the practice, as they found exploiting their bannermen in this way often fueled unrest and treasonous talk. In 58 AC, Queen Alysanne Targaryen visited the north on a royal progress, where she learned of the right to the first night from the small folk of the north. Horrified at the mistreatment of so many young women, she petitioned her husband King Jaehaerys to outlaw the practice. Though wary to upset his lords, King Jaehaerys listened to his wife's plea and outlawed the right to the first night against the advice of Lord Alaric Stark, whom stated many of his bannermen would see this as the crown stripping them of their lordly rights. There are some rumours that men of House Umber still to this day practice the right to the first night in secret. The Umbers seem simple, but they are not without a certain low cunning. Roose Bolton to Theon Greyjoy, A Dance with Dragons chapter 32. Reek 3. House Umber can trace its lineage back to one of the most ancient lines of the First Men, once sovereign kings in the far north before centuries of conflict and shifting power structure reduced them from their royal status to staunch vassals of House Stark, the Kings of Winter. As with many great houses of the region, legends name the Night's King, the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, whom reportedly took a corpse bride and turned the Night Fort into his own petty kingdom, as possibly having hailed from House Umber, though such tales vary from holdfast to holdfast, with any of the larger northern houses often being attributed as the Night's King. The Umbers being the last northern house before the wall means they're the first line of defense when it comes to the wildling incursions. One ancient example of this is when they fought beside the Starks to defeat Gendel and Gorn, the brothers whom were king beyond the wall, a victory some 3,000 years past according to some northern traditions. In 226 AC, during the Targaryen reign over Westeros, our Lord Harmond Umber joined Lord Willem Stark and Artos Stark in the rout of another king beyond the wall, Ryman Redbeard, at Long Lake, a hard-won battle against his formidable wildling host. The proximity of the wall leaves no love lost between House Umber and the wildlings, as many members of House Umber have been lost in wildling raids, or dealing with incursions. In much harsher times, a daughter of Mors Umber was seized during a wildling raid, a memory that deepened the Umbers' reputation for their fierce enmity towards raiders beyond the wall. During Robert's rebellion, the Umbers marched with Lord Eddard Stark, with two of Mors' sons falling at the Battle of the Trident in service of their liege and their realm. The blasts of horns woke him. Bran pushed himself onto his side, grateful for the reprieve. He heard horses and boisterous shouting. More guests had come, and half drunk by the noise of them. Grasping his bar, he pulled himself from the bed and over to the window seat. On their banner was a giant in shattered chains that told him they were the Umber men, down from the Northlands beyond the last river. The Thoughts of Bran Stark, A Clash of Kings Chapter 16, Bran 2. The current Lord of House Umber is Jon Umber, better known as the Greatjon. He is a massive man who stands near 7 feet tall. He is hugely muscled, his fists likened to hams, and regarded by Jaime Lannister as one of the very few living warriors who might match him in sheer strength. Boisterous, proud, and unrestrained, the Greatjon offers respect only to those who prove themselves worthy of it. He has little patience for courtly manner, and holds the belief that the battlefield is no place for women, which causes some friction with the Lady of Bear Island, Mage Mormont. His speaking voice is deep, booming, resonant rumble, though he is said to possess a surprisingly capable singing voice. A heavy drinker, Jon is dismissed by some as a sweaty oath, though none question his ferocity in battle. The Greatjon wields an immense and ungainly greatsword larger than even the Valyrian steel greatsword of House Stark, Ice, at least in Bran Stark's estimation. He typically wears mail, and keeps a warhorn at his side he likes to sound off in battle. When Robb Stark calls his banners at the start of the War of the Five Kings, when Ned Stark is arrested, Jon answers his call, marching south with most of the Umber men and his eldest son and heir, also called Jon Umber, known as the Small Jon. Despite his nickname, Small Jon Umber is nearly as tall as his father, the Greatjon, and might still become taller. Like his father, he's built strongly. Jon leaves his aged uncles, Mors Crowfood and Hother Whoresbane, in command of the Last Hearth, while he's in the south. Despite the initial heated confrontation at Winterfell, the Greatjon soon proves himself one of Robb Stark's staunchest allies and most formidable battlefield commanders, with the Small Jon riding among his personal guard. During the Battle of the Whispering Wood, the Greatjon commands his own contingent independent of Robb's main force, and during the Battle of the Camps, he charges in from the west alongside the Mallisters, putting the Lannister siege towers to the torch. After the execution of Eddard Stark, House Umber stands firmly behind his son, and the Greatjon loudly proclaims Robb king in the north, in the Hall of Riverrun. The Umber contingent of the Northern Army that rides south remains with King Robb throughout his entire campaign in the Westerlands. After the victory at Oxcross, the Greatjon seizes several Lannister gold mines, a vital revenue stream, while the Small Jon leads the assault party that scales the walls during the storming of the Crag. Meanwhile in the north, Lord Umber's uncles attend a harvest feast at Winterfell. Hother petitions for ships to combat the wildling raiders along the Bay of Seals, and he is instructed to coordinate with Lord Wyman Manderley on the construction of a fleet. Mors Umber puts himself forward as a prospective husband for the widowed Lady Donella Hornwood, though she declines the proposal. Following the Ironborn capture of Winterfell, Theon Greyjoy informs his sister Asha the Umber forces are gathering beyond the last river to help retake the Stark stronghold. However, no Umber men are present among Sir Roderick Cassell's assembled host before the Battle of Winterfell. The Greatjon and the Smalljon return with King Robb Stark and his host from the Westerlands back to the Riverlands. At Riverrun, Lord Umber and his men are among the first to subdue Lord Rickard Karstark after he murders the captive William Lannister and Tion Frey. The Umber men are wounded in the struggle. When Rickard angrily calls Robb boy, the Greatjon strikes him and later oversees the hanging of 7 Carhold men who aided their lord in the murders. As Robb Stark marches from Riverrun to the Twins for Lord Emuel Tully's wedding to Rosalind Frey, the Greatjon commands the vanguard of the Northern Army. During the wedding feast at the Twins, he drinks heavily and competes in bouts of drinking with Sir Waylon Frey and Merritt Frey. When the massacre of the Red Wedding begins, it takes 8 men to bring him down. He kills 1, wounds 2 others, and bites half of Sir Lensel Haig's ear off before being overpowered. The Greatjon is taken captive and imprisoned in the Twins, while his heir, the Smalljon, is slain by Bolton or perhaps Karstark men as he tries to defend Robb Stark. The identity of House Umber's current heir is now unknown. Queen Regent Cersei Lannister later tells King Tommen Baratheon's small council that the Umbers have joined Ramsay Bolton in driving the Ironborn from Moat Cailin. With House Stark displaced, Ramsay's father Lord Roose Bolton has been made Warden of the North by the Iron Throne. Following the lifting of the siege of Riverrun, Jaime Lannister informs Walder Rivers that King Tommen requires House Frey to release all prisoners taken during the Red Wedding, in accordance with the Crown's command. This includes the Greatjon. But while the Greatjon is still imprisoned at the Twins, Hother Umber commands roughly half of the remaining Umber strength under the Bolton banner, though Lord Roose Bolton considers these men unreliable at best, given their well-known Stark loyalty. Meanwhile, Mors Umber joins the cause of King Stannis Baratheon in his campaign to drive both the Boltons and the Greyjoy forces from the north. Crowfood makes it plain that no Umber will raise a hand against another, regardless of the cause. Hother leads 300 spears and 100 archers south towards Moat Cailin, later commands the Umber contingent at Winterfell during the wedding of Ramsay Bolton to a girl presented as Arya Stark, Jane Poole in truth. The Umber men, allied with Morse, encamp outside Winterfell, sounding their war horns to keep Roose Bolton's forces off balance. After Theon Greyjoy and Jane Poole flee Winterfell, it is Mors Crowfood who brings them safely to the Crofters village and Stannis Baratheon.